Welcome everyone to another episode of 10-Minute Poker Tips. I have a special guest today, Jeff Platt. He is a poker commentator, WSOP sideline reporter. I'm pretty sure all of you are familiar with Jeff. Thank you for coming on the show, man.
Happy to be here, Derek. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so first, let's just start off with how did you get into poker commentary, poker sideline reporting in general?
Sure. I was in sports broadcasting for a while and I always played poker, just your typical moneymaker boom story. Friends in high school when we saw the episodes on ESPN and tried to replicate things. And I had always played poker while keeping up the broadcasting. And at one point, it just clicked for me. Why not try to merge these two passions together? As corny as that may sound, I was fortunate enough to get an audition with Dan Gotti and Moya Kandani at Poker Go. And it just happened. Timing was extremely fortunate for me. Kind of right as Poker Go was getting going, we tried some new things with the World Series, and it just worked for me, and I'm very fortunate.
I mean, having you as one of the faces of poker has been fantastic. I think you really do bring a whole bunch of professionalism to the game, and you're very good at just like getting people to come and talk to you, which is great. It's a great skill to have.
I appreciate that. That's very nice, and fortunately for me, it's really easy to deal with. 99% of the poker players. I'll leave it to you to figure out who the everybody's been great.
So I know that the Platt curse has become quite infamous, and it probably brings an eye roll from you these days. But I think probably the more important thing though is it seems like sideline reporting really started to become a thing at the WSOP probably years ago. Were you part of that decision making? Why did the WSOP start doing that? How did you get involved in that?
Well, first of all, I think that Kara Scott deserves a ton of credit.
Yeah,
because she is like the OG side.
That's right.
For the World Series of Poker main event.
Yeah.
And she brought so much to the table. In 2021, when the World Series came back after the COVID break, and Kara couldn't come for whatever reason, my boss, Dan, asked me to do it. And I'm sure he asked a ton of other people before getting to me. And I knew that I couldn't just fill the shoes of Kara Scott, that'd be impossible. So I knew we wanted to try something different, and Norman Chad deserves a ton of credit for this. He says, just get in there, just get into the action, give the audience a sense of what it is to be like at the World Series of Poker main event from either the viewer or the player perspective. So that's exactly what we tried. Our production crew is incredible, and they were open to the idea. It took a while to figure out. I'm not sure if we have it figured out yet, a few years in, but we're trying new things. So we're walking up on stage, we're going up to players during play. We're not waiting for a break. We're not waiting for an elimination. We're not waiting to conduct a bust out interview. And I think that's really worked because we've been able to be creative and innovative and mix things up. I mean, this, Derek, as good as anybody, poker can be really boring, right? For long stretches of time. So if we can get in there, even if it's just for a minute to break up the monotony, I feel like that's success for us, and I think that we've been able to accomplish that over the last few years. So it's my favorite job for sure. It's very important to the World Series of Poker main event, no matter who is the one actually doing the reporting.
I think the poker community sort of discounts or underestimates the importance of spectators. I think that's really, really important for the growth of our game, actually to return maybe back to the glory days of when we were on ESPN, right? Spectators are so important to our game. Eventually people keep talking about having sponsored tournaments. We're never going to have that unless you have a strong spectator community themselves. And it's not always just about players, right? There's many more spectators than there are players, and players are going to complain about everything. They're going to eye roll, like, why are you doing these segments? But in order to grow the game, I think spectators is really important.
I completely agree. That is what, especially the main event broadcast, that's who the main event broadcast is dictated to.
Right.
We're thinking about the more casual fan, the hardcore fans like me and you. If we were viewers, we're going to be in there regardless. Right. It could be straight poker, no gimmicks, no funny business, no sideline interviews. We would be in there regardless. But we have to think about how to expand the viewership for our premier event. Yeah. This is our Super Bowl. This is really our one chance out of the year where we can really draw in that mainstream coverage. So everything that we do needs to be targeted towards that more casual audience to, like you said, really grow the game.
Yeah, and I feel like we are right there to solving something. So back when we were doing those curated November 9 broadcasts, like those were very spectator friendly, right? It wasn't like a 6 hour stream. And I really appreciate the commentators that are able to just sit there for like 6 to 8 hours commentating on tournament poker. That's tough, right? But yeah, so perhaps that thing isn't exactly targeted to the masses and able to gather spectators like a super long stream, but the curated ones were. But it's really hard actually, like how do you do a curated stream like almost instantly without doing spoilers, right? So I think it's really, really tough. And I've seen, I don't know when this started happening, but I know you also like, you had like a sports commentating background, is that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I started noticing that NBA and maybe even Major League Baseball, probably NFL, started doing like these condensed videos on YouTube. Like after a game, they would just like squeeze it into like the highlights of, but it wasn't like highlights. It was just like literally just like the 10 biggest plays or something like that, right? So I almost just feel like we're kind of right there to being able to engage more spectators into poker.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that's almost how I keep up with the NBAs. I watch
Right.
the 10-minute condensed version, so I know what you're talking about. I think it's tough because Poker Go has to balance a couple different things, pulling off a live stream with a lot of people watching, and then to your point, editing the curated versions, which are there. They are on CBS Sports Network, the 1 hour version of what day 4 looks like. And, you know, the only conundrum we run into there is that's released months later. So you mentioned the spoiler aspect of it. It's like, it's just not relevant in the poker world, but you're still trying to draw the casual mainstream viewer. So it's a really tough balance to accomplish for Poker Go now, for GG in the future, where you want to please the live viewer, but you're also thinking about the viewer who's going to watch the highlight version, the edited show. Poker Go is doing a good job, I think, on their YouTube channel. I think they recently started this, at least for the prelim events, final tables, cutting those down into the 30-minute.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So you're just seeing the highlights, which I think is a really good plan by Poker Go.
Yeah, I think that's probably a move in the right direction that will hopefully draw more spectators. So now that we're talking about growth, so I think media coverage in general has been good for growth. Like what are almost like the motions or the levers of doing sideline reporting, of doing these condensed things? Like how does that actually help like grow the game?
Well, for me specifically, it's easy, right? Because I don't have to worry really about the balance. There are some minor things we pull off here and there to make sure that most of my interviews can translate into that curated version, the edited shows.
Yeah.
For example, like you will very rarely see me like acknowledge Nick and Ali. As much as I want to talk to them when they're on the night shift, they aren't the voices of the edited shows. So I kind of leave things very
interesting,
very bland, very generic, or else I would love to take shots at Ali Najad nonstop. That would be my zone. So I just have to focus on the real little things like that. It's our producers, Dan Gowdy, Zach Ralston, Maurice Gandani, who have to make the more big picture decisions. It's easy for me. I go and do my interview. It's going to be about a minute or a minute and a half, and that's going to fit really well in both a live stream and an edited format.
I think maybe the top level metrics of what growth looks like kind of comes from the executive team. But what do you personally think? How does pulling somebody off of a table in the middle of a hand and talking to them, what's attractive about that too? First, let's talk about the poker player watching segment, but then maybe also the spectator segment. Like what's exciting about that?
Yeah, I think we have a unique opportunity there. Imagine if you were watching the Super Bowl, and I know they do this in some modified form, but right after Travis Kelce came off the field and he was upset about something, you saw a reporter talk to him.
Yeah.
In sports, we get the end of quarter, halftime, pre-game show, post-game show interviews. But in poker, we have such a unique opportunity to just go right in there and ask about a player's mindset. I think when you're deep in the World Series of Poker main event, there's no feeling like that in the poker world. And to be able to express that feeling to the audience we have allows us to be really innovative in a broadcast. So I see a lot of value in doing the in-game interviews. The bust-out interviews, are necessary. They're a part of it. But where we can really shine and show something that's different is in tournament interviews.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's the art of a lot of sports coverage, where it seems like poker's trying to model itself a little bit after that, is that you are putting that on for fans, right? Not necessarily the players themselves, but you also want to make the fans feel like a part of the game, right? Almost like they're able to be on the field, just like they're able to be at the table, like doing things. How do you pick who you're going to interview?
It's a fairly lengthy process and back and forth with my producer. Long story short, we want somebody that's both entertaining and relevant. Somebody that's running deep, we aren't going to interview them just because they're running deep in a poker tournament. It doesn't bring us that much. But if there's a standout storyline that accompanies it, whether it be something that happened during the tournament, whether it be that player's background story, which I might find interesting, which I think that viewers might find interesting, or they just carry themselves a certain way at the table, or it's something as simple as they're wearing a crazy outfit. Those are kind of our targets. If I don't know them well, I'll try to do some research on them, talk to them a little bit before we go on the air. So it's just a combination of telling stories that are really important to the tournament itself and telling stories that really show the audience who this player is, what their stories are. So if we can find some combination of those aforementioned points, then we're really cooking. It's a tough process, but it's an easy process when it comes to, and this won't surprise you, the Daniel Negreanu's and Phil.
Sure.
Right, because those are just automatic. Boom, check. They're a big name, or any kind of celebrity out there who's running deep. Those are the easier decisions. But where we find the fun in it, the enjoyment in it, is to go after players that you wouldn't necessarily expect us to talk to.
Yeah, it's so interesting, the evolution of poker media coverage. Because I remember back in the day in the ESPN broadcast, there were those curated things. I remember they had that whole Ryan Reese segment where they went to his house and they did all that background on him. So it almost just feels like you're just trying to replicate that, right, with a microphone.
Yeah, we're doing that in the 1 minute version.
Right.
So we don't have to send the whole crew to his house, as cool as that would be. But we've at least got to be cognizant of budget concerns and realize that we can't send a production crew to 19 players. And so this is a good in between for us to show the audience who this player is.
Yeah, this is super exciting. And then maybe even, as you're talking to higher ups at Poker Go, there's a lot of auto-generated content with AI these days. So I just wonder if maybe there's something that you can do to accompany that if you don't have the time to be able to do all this fancy editing of something that you're going to put on. Maybe AI can help you just do something a little bit more real time and live. I feel like all you guys are just scratching the surface of where we can go with this. And I'm super excited about the direction that you and everyone else is taking poker media coverage.
Thank you for saying that. I'm really excited for the future as well. Perhaps fortunately for me, I think we're a ways off of AI conducting the sideline interview. My job is one of the safe ones for now, but I do think there are ways for AI to be incorporated into our broadcast. I think you'll start seeing that somewhat soon, at least surrounding Octopi Poker and what it's able to do.
Nice.
And Octopi's partnership with the PGP. We're still a little ways away, but I think that AI is going to be involved in our poker broadcast sooner rather than later.
Wow, I'm super excited to see that. So Jeff, anything else going on with you in terms of projects or anything happening over the next couple of months for you?
Well, it all gears up to the World Series.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, of course, we had the Texas Poker Open at the end of this month in Houston at Champions Club, which is awesome. A $3,300 buy-in, a $2 million guarantee. In May, I have some things going on with the Celebrity Poker Tour, perhaps with
Nice.
the Series of Poker, maybe even a little bit of Triton for me. I'll keep you posted on that one, Derek. So for me, though, the highlight of the schedule is always the World Series of Poker, especially the main event, but just that whole 6 weeks is just a series that I don't think I'll ever not to. So that's what I have going on.
Yeah, I'm super excited to get out there too. It's always the best summer camp for all the poker players to get out there and play and try to win some bracelets.
And even you guys, the blasters from LA, and as good of a chance as anybody here in Vegas.
All right, so thank you so much, Jeff, for coming on. I really appreciate it. It was fantastic hearing your thoughts about the growth of the game, spectators, how that all sort of intersects, and really excited to see what's coming up next for poker media coverage.
I really enjoyed the chat, Derek, and really appreciated your questions. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Jeff.